Welcome to Therapy Unlocked, where we discuss all things therapy from an unlocked perspective. I'm Emily Huffman, and I'm here with Katrina.
Hello, Katrina, Mondragon, licensed professional counselor. I am a professional, but not your professional, so nothing we're going to talk about today should be taken as medical, legal, or otherwise advice. This podcast is purely for education and amusement. That is it. That's the disclaimer.
Education, amusement, and because I would like to be famous. So please like, subscribe, follow, engage. And welcome to Therapy Unlocked.
Our metaphors for grief are so very similar and also a little bit different. I think the only difference we have is that I don't think the grief shrinks. I think we grow.
No, I don't think the grief shrinks at all.
Yeah.
I think we grow too. And that growth is what allows us to be able to get through the things a little bit better.
Right. So your box is the grief and then the ball is...
the growth.
The growth. The ball is the growth. Okay. Right. Yeah, I got you.
But as we grow, it shrinks because it has less power over us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's that ASL spatial
the grief doesn't go
me.
away.
No.
Yeah, the grief... Sorry to burst your bubble if you're just losing something or someone or a marriage. Or...
You don't have prolonged grief disorder if you are still grieving and it's been 10 years. Well, I don't think that's what anybody says by prolonged grief disorder.
There's a lot of debate in the medical community about whether or not it should even exist as a disorder. That's why it wasn't in there to begin with. Because grief is a normal part of the human condition. Right. However, so is getting help.
I have seen animals grieving too. I think where prolonged grief disorder becomes prolonged grief disorder is when it's inhibiting someone's daily life.
Ding, ding, ding. That's what I was going to say, is when it inhibits your ability to function, whether it's your work life, your social life, your school life, your activities of daily living, showering, brushing your teeth. If you're unable to do the things that you prefer to do in a day, you might have an issue.
Right. Yeah, you find yourself stuck. Or I think for some people, it's that inability to go back to work or that inability to, take the next step in maybe downsizing their home if they've lost a partner later in life or something along those lines. And at this point, where someone needs to seek help, if you're coming through to that because you're like, do I have prolonged grief disorder? People will search for us. Oh. They may find this and think, do I have prolonged grief disorder? At the point where you're asking yourself, go talk to someone.
Yeah, it's not, if you have health insurance, check what your behavioral health benefits are and just find somebody in network. They can do an assessment real quick. It's like an hour and a half, depending on the clinician. And they can tell you right then and there, yes, you have prolonged grief disorder, or maybe you have anxiety, maybe you have nothing. Maybe you just needed to talk to somebody for a day and you can go home and be okay.
Maybe you lost the love of your life and it's normal. There's sometimes, I think what people really resonated with on your high Ren reaction was the fact that we build up how a therapist may react to us. The therapist is going to tell us what to do, or the therapist is going to judge us, or the therapist is going to have something to say about that. But the therapist doesn't have anything to say about that. They're just there to listen to you and support you.
Well, feedback is a component of therapy. I've heard of some therapists giving absolutely no feedback, and I'm like, really? What did you learn in therapy? Nothing? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, but I think that we build up in our minds that amygdala response, a perceived reaction to calm. But there is no oncoming wave.
There's also no such thing as TMI in therapy. A lot of people think that there's like, oh, I don't want to overshare. Overshare. Say the weird thing.
Say the weird thing. Say as many of the weird things as possible. Don't censor yourself. And give them the whole picture.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that there is a repeated pitfall for people in the lack of giving that full...
I don't want to tell my therapist, so I'm not going to tell my therapist. So now my therapist doesn't know, so now they don't know. And since they don't know, then they can't appropriately guide for treatment. So you might be chewing on the same issue, not making any progress. If the therapist doesn't know, like, there's this whole other issue that needs to be addressed before we can move forward.
Yeah. And if you are someone like myself, and you have so many things that you're like, oh, gee, we can't sit down and do this in 45 minutes. What I had to do was two things. I booked more therapy.
There's also intensive therapies. I don't do it, but there's some therapists do intensive, which is like 6 or 7 hours long.
I was going twice a week for a while. And the other thing that I had to do is I really had to take the initiative to do the journaling. Mm-hmm. And I went and I got an app that is available for free, at least here in the United States, called Finch. And that helped me a lot. I used that for a long time. But I used that for my journaling. But doing the journaling and finding out, even if I could not determine what I needed to talk about, I could go sit down and I could go say, hey, okay, I'm going to read you a list. You tell me what jumps out at you. And we'll go through it like that. And I've done that. I've done that before. I've done it several times. And I've done it before and been like, hey, by the way, so-and-so has cancer. So-and-so is doing this. And my shoulder fell out of socket and my organs are falling out. Which one jumps out at you? And the therapist has said, I'm so sorry that's happening to you. That's so many things. Like, no, nothing in particular jumps out at me. How are you hella overwhelmed right now? How are you keeping your head above water? And that was the point of the conversation and the interaction at that point, like take that time, write that information down.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And journaling can be an app. It can be voice to text. It can be video. It can be old school like I do it. I actually have a hard book that I write with a pen in, and I'm a weirdo like that. But I like the smell of paper and the feel of writing, although after a while, the hand cramps up.
See, that's where I had to give it up. I used to love to write by hand, and I had to give that up, and now mostly I just write by screen. I've talked about this on the pod before.
Do you type it with your thumbs, or do you talk to text?
Type it with my thumbs.
Cool.
I do. Kind of a little bit of a swipey to text kind of thing, though. But I also made for years, and I still will sometimes, I'll make draft videos, and I'll talk to myself. And talk to myself in those drafts. Some of them will see the light of day sometimes, and others don't. And it's kind of a visual journal. And it started out of necessity and survival, and it started out of a need to keep those thoughts private, and knowing that wasn't an area where anybody would look for them. But it became so useful, and we talked about this morning when we were off air, but, it's really hard to keep crying when you're filming yourself.
Or looking in a mirror. I think that was
Or looking in a mirror. It's like a mirror, It's like a mirror we can take everywhere. Joke's on them. We can take a calculator and a mirror everywhere we go.
Right. Whoever that teacher was who told me I wasn't going to have a calculator in my pocket my whole adult life, he was wrong.
You are. The light has shifted in here. That's terrible. Okay. That said, we are Therapy Unlocked. We unlock the mind one conversation at a time. Thank you for joining us. Come back and see us again soon.
Yes.
We appreciate you being here. This is an hour long, so there's going to be so many episodes. When you get to the end of us, it's going to be September.
Happy fall.
Happy fall, y'all.
That's all the time we have for today on Therapy Unlocked. Please join us next time as we continue the conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us as we continue the journey to unlock the mind, one conversation at a time.
I talk about today should be taken as medical, legal, or otherwise advice. This podcast is purely for education and amusement. That is it. That's the disclaimer.